I started podcasting way back in 2009. Hello and hi to all those that are joining. 2009, okay, is when I started podcasting. So I kind of have been around the whole podcasting thing for quite some time. I've had two podcasts. Right now, one of them is pretty much on hiatus, on permanent hiatus. The other one is like, not really sure. And then I decided to start one using this YouTube podcasting, and it's called Build Influencer Profits. So, by the way, if you wanted to check me out on YouTube, I have the same handle on YouTube that I do on TikTok, and that's my name, Eileen Smith. Ileane Smith. So, thanks again for joining. All right, so here's the deal. Like I said, I started podcasting back in 2009, and one of the real benefits of being a podcaster is the fact that it gives you a lot of control. You have control over what you say, who you talk to, and where your content gets distributed. So now that YouTube has decided to add podcasting into their whole lineup of content, I, I'm a big fan of YouTube, but I want you to know that there are three different flavors of podcasting on YouTube. And I want to make sure that you're aware of these three different flavors and how they can be impact your content and your distribution of your content. Okay, so a little bit more background. Google and YouTube have, well, I should say just Google. I'll just say Google. Google has attempted to figure out how to take advantage of podcasting for many years. And a few of those attempts have failed. For example, you may know that recently the Google Podcast app was shut down. Okay, so there also was a time when you had something called Google Music, which is now YouTube Music, and they imported all of our stuff over. But it just hasn't been the greatest experience for YouTube slash Google and podcasting. So now I think that they've come up with a great combination that satisfies their needs. And by the way, I'm saying hi to everyone who's joining. Please go ahead and say hi, tap hi into the chat. Okay, so they've got this combination that's working for them because in order for them to really benefit from podcasting, because remember, they've got YouTube and all the content from all of us who contribute our videos to YouTube. So, how does it make sense for them to even dip their toe in the water of podcasting? And so, the only way that it's going to make sense for them is if they can monetize it. And so, these other attempts that they made didn't work out that great. And so now they're integrated with YouTube Music. And by the way, go ahead and share this out if you know anybody who's interested in podcasting, or if you're familiar with anyone who wants to have their podcast on YouTube. So, like I said, we're going to cover the three flavors of YouTube podcasting. All right. So now that you have a background on me, being a longtime podcaster since 2009, and you've noticed that YouTube has gone through several different iterations of this idea of integrating podcasting onto their platforms. And now it can be found in YouTube Music. All right. So I know it was very exciting to hear that YouTube was going to embrace podcasting again. And I want to break down these three flavor. I call them flavors of podcasting. And the first flavor is the easiest one to do if you already have content on YouTube. All you need to do is if you're already a YouTube content creator, I'm sure you've created playlists, well, depending upon how many videos you have up there, but you should have some playlists already in your YouTube channel. So the easiest thing to do is to take one of those playlists, click on those three dots over on the side somewhere, depending upon whether you're on your phone or on desktop, and you can basically convert that playlist into a podcast. Easy peasy. I mean, you can't get much easier than that. But there's one more thing you need to do. And this is not required, but it makes sense to do it. Is you need to upload a square image that will serve as the cover art for your podcast in YouTube Music. Because your podcast is going to be in YouTube, but it's also going to be available on YouTube Music. And on YouTube Music, in that podcast section, it needs to have a square cover art. Okay? So there's the positive things about that. You've already got that content out there. You just set it as a playlist, as a podcast. You set your playlist as a podcast, upload that square image, and you can write a little description about it, like you do with all playlists on YouTube, and you're good to go. Now, let me tell you the downside. The downside is that podcast is only now available on YouTube and YouTube Music. It's not going to be in the other popular or well-known podcast apps like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or, where people typically listen to podcasts. So that to me is a downside because you want to have an easy way for your audience, your fans, your friends, your community to consume your content. Okay? And once again, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who is joining. Please go ahead and share this out to anyone that you know, especially if they're interested in podcasting. All right, so that was flavor number 1. Turn a playlist into a podcast. Now we're going to talk about YouTube podcast flavor. My moniker is flavor number 2. And that's for those of you who already have an existing podcast. So you've got an audio podcast and you're using Libsyn or Blueberry or Spotify for podcasters, Captivate, wherever. I could go on and on because there's lots of podcast hosts out here. And by the way, make sure you follow me now that you know that I'm going to be going live here and I'm going to be dropping some gems. Okay. So please, please, please follow me here. Please share this out and, tap on that screen there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So once you have a podcast that's hosted, you have an audio podcast that's hosted with one of those hosts I just mentioned, they're going to give you an RSS feed, which is basically a URL. It's represented by a URL. And behind that URL is what they have called enclosures. And your enclosures are all your audio files and podcast cover art and so forth. So you're going to take that URL of your RSS feed and you're going to submit that to YouTube. Now, let's say you have 20 episodes already, or maybe even 200 episodes. Doesn't matter, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to YouTube and you're going to click on the create button. And you'll see the option there for podcasts. Actually, it's going to say new podcast. Then you'll see that it asks you like which one of these flavors that I'm describing to you you're going to use, and you'll see submit an RSS feed. Okay? When you click that, you're going to enter that RSS feed that you got from your podcast host, your audio podcast host, right? This is great because, first of all, don't worry about your subscribers getting 200 notifications, because if you got 200 episodes, you might think, oh my gosh, my subscribers are going to go nuts. That's not going to happen. So that's a good thing, right? But YouTube is going to take that audio and they are going to literally turn it into a video file. All on the back end. You're not going to see this, this happening or anything like that. But they're going to take a static image, and that's going to be your podcast cover art, or the image that you designated inside of your podcast host. They're going to take that image and make that a cover for your video. Because remember, I said they're going to transcribe, well, not transcribe, they're going to convert, my fault, they're going to convert your audio file into a video file. Okay, they're only going to do this for them. All right, for your listing that's going to be on YouTube. And who else? What else? Who knows what else? Type in the chat if you know. YouTube Music. All right, so then that's going to be it. You're done. You've all you had to do was take your RSS feed. Now, like I said, your subscribers are not going to get notifications that you just did this, but they will get notified every time you upload a new video. Okay? And so every time you upload a new episode, I take that back. They will get notified every time you upload a new audio episode to your podcast host. You no longer have to upload anything on YouTube. You're going to upload it like you've always done with your audio podcast. You're going to upload it to your podcast host, and your subscribers will get notified that there's a new episode available. Very important. So now, the downside. A lot of podcast hosts have offered podcasters a way that they could monetize their content with what they call programmatic ads. Now, YouTube is going to they're not going to import those ads. Those ads are not going to be available for anybody to listen to / watch on YouTube or in YouTube Music. So you're not going to earn any monetization that way. If you're in the YouTube Partner Program, you can still earn AdSense the usual way. Okay? But any ads, they're literally going to be stripped from your RSS feed. Okay? So think about that. This is something for you to consider before you even decide to put your RSS feed on YouTube. All right? It's really important for you to think about this stuff and don't just willy-nilly like, oh, I can do it. No, I want you to think. Let's inhale and exhale and take a pause and just think about it before you make that move. All right. So here we are. We're going to come into our third and final flavor of podcasting. And I want to say hi. I see Asia is here, and Ramon and Deborah. Thank you so much for coming in. Go ahead and tap the screen and share this out with your friends if you know anyone who is interested in podcasting. Okay, so let's go to the third flavor of podcasting. on YouTube. Very simple. You just start a brand new show. You start a brand new show. You go to that create button on YouTube, because you're only going to be able to create on YouTube. You can use the YouTube Studio app, but you're going to be creating on YouTube, not on the YouTube Music app. Okay? You're going to, give it a name. Make sure that you have that square image, because remember, you're going to make this a podcast. So, in addition to your thumbnails for your videos, you're going to either have videos that you're going to be uploading to this podcast, or you're going to go live. And that's going to be added to the podcast as well. All right. So, you'll do all that in the back end once the file is uploaded. Now, that's a really cool way to use YouTube Podcasts. And like I said, your episodes are going to be available on YouTube and on YouTube Music. But herein lies the issue. What's the issue there? This is the downside. It's only on YouTube and YouTube Podcasts. It's not going to be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, which is what I use to listen to podcasts. It's an iOS app called Overcast, or Fountain, or Pocket Cast, or on and on and on. There's tons of listening apps. But if you designate that you're going to start a brand new podcast and it's only going to be on YouTube, then that's the downside. It will not be available unless you make extra steps to literally take those files from those videos or live streams and upload them to a proper podcasting host like Blueberry or Libsyn or Captivate, or there's a bunch of them. Spotify for podcasters, Transistor. I could go on and on and on, but I won't. I'll find out if you have questions about that, and we'll maybe talk about that in another live stream. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. I want you to know that, like I said, you can follow me on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube. I have the same handle on YouTube that I have here, and that's my name, Eileen Smith, ILEANE Smith. And I do have a podcast there that you may be interested in, especially if you're a content creator. It's called Build Influencer Profits. So I look forward to doing more live streams here, and I look forward to chatting it up with you. Leave me a comment or reach out to me. You can message me as well if you have specific questions about podcasting, about live streaming, because like I said, learn to live stream with Miss Eileen. I thank you so very much for joining me today.